Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of FTT Chats. I'm Lisa Moyle, Director of Strategy at VC Innovations, and today I'm really delighted to be joined by Rossa Malone. Rossa is Enterprise Sales at LastPass. Hello, Rossa.
Hey Lisa, how are you? Thanks for having me. Lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you join us today. Rossa, we always like to start these conversations with you telling us a little bit about you and your role at LastPass.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I've been with LastPass now for almost 6 years and seen lots of change within LogMeIn, whom are our parent company. I focus on multiple different verticals across UK and Ireland, focusing mainly on the kind of finance, media, insurance spaces, and also a little bit on banking as well. Yeah, really what we do is try and help our customers understand how LastPass can kind of provide some synergies to issues that they're having within their current kind of password management and identity landscape. And really, yeah, we that's what we try to do. We've got a ton of customers all over the globe, as you may know, yeah, really, that's all we do.
Great. Thanks for that introduction, Rossa. And I'm sure we'll be digging a little deeper into LastPass and what it provides for your customers. But I'd like to start off with looking at what's been happening over the past year. You know, there have been significant challenges for consumers and businesses alike. What's your view on the uptake of digital services and the use of digital channels over the past year?
Well, obviously, COVID has kind of, it's changed everything. It's changed everybody's life, and I think for the better in some instances. Certainly around the realization that securing your digital footprint is very important, and the consequences of not doing that can be quite huge. Specifically for organizations that probably weren't ready for something like COVID, and we talk to them day in, day out. The perimeter has shifted, right? It's now moved to the kitchen table, or the kid's bedroom in my instance, or the attic, or wherever you can get some space. And the reality is the landscape now is one whereby threats are everywhere, and we've become more accustomed to it, right? You see it now. Certainly over in Ireland, we get kind of dodgy phone calls from God knows where. We get emails, we get kind of SMSs, and that's just become the norm. And if you kind of look at that on a corporate level, you can imagine how many attacks are happening kind of day in, day out. So I think everyone has now got a realization that, the perimeter is really, really at risk, or there's certainly a threat and it's real, and businesses seem to be acting on it, which is good for us.
Yeah, that's a fascinating point about the perimeter just being so large now, because workforces are distributed and people are accessing services and products remotely. We know that people are very concerned about online fraud and bad actors getting access to their personal data, and you just touched on a little bit of that. Can you describe to us some of your insights when it comes to human behavior when they're using passwords or password protected services? Because presumably humans are a weak link.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all inherently lazy, whether we like to admit it or not. Nobody likes to remember 20, 30, 40, 50 passwords, whatever it is. I can't quite remember the figure, but I know on average, we have quite a lot of passwords that we try to remember, and we're all the same. And that what we'll try and do is take the easiest route, and that is you reusing the same password. You reuse it not only in your personal life, so for your Gmail, your Hotmail, your banking, but you'll also then transfer that behavior across into the corporate space. So you'll have your single sign-on, your master password to log into your corporate applications, and it will be the same as you use for the majority of your social applications. And what we've seen is, the majority of breaches occur because of weaker reused passwords that have been compromised, or some bad actors have gotten hold of them via kind of brute force attacks, or however they get access to these details. And that's what we try and prevent against happening. Essentially, using a password manager not only gives you the ability to have good password hygiene in your daily life, when you're doing your online banking, when you're paying your bills, when you're storing kind of secure passwords, banking details, passport information, whatever it may be in your secure vault. But we also offer that in the corporate space because we see them both as being very, very similar.
Yeah, so essentially, people are struggling with passwords they use in their personal lives, and that behavior is replicated when they're accessing services or
Exactly.
products at work.
Exactly. I mean, it's impossible for people to remember multiple different passwords. So we take that headache away from them. What we do is we give them the ability for you only have to remember one master password, and then we can auto-generate passwords for everything within your vault. It's all secure. It's all heavily encrypted, and it takes that kind of headache away of having to reset passwords, which is it is frustrating for people, and it's really a reason why a lot of people wouldn't want to use a password manager initially, because they think, oh, I just can't remember my passwords. But the beauty of it is, and the main hook of LastPass is, you only have to remember one master password, and all the rest. Once you've populated the vault, everything sits in there, and it's kind of simple, seamless access.
So in essence, it's addressing that tendency towards laziness that you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. We realize that, and it's something that we see across all organizations, across all different sizes, not just the kind of big, large enterprises, but smaller SMEs and kind of mom and pop shops. Everyone has the same issues because we all have to remember the same passwords, right?
So you picked up on a number of the benefits to the end user, right? And addressing that issue of having to remember who knows how many passwords now. What are some of the best benefits to businesses? So, for example, someone like me who doesn't remember a password just resets it every single time. So what are some of the benefits for businesses?
Yeah, and you're not alone in that. So one, the password reset, for if you can imagine a service desk or your IT team having to constantly deal with resetting passwords and going through that whole process. If you multiply that out across a business, say for instance 1,000 employees, what does that give back to the organization in terms of time? How much does that cost? So that's a huge saving straight away for the business. But more importantly, what LastPass provides is that kind of helicopter view across the organization, so that you can see who's accessing what, who's got weak or vulnerable passwords, who needs to change passwords. From a compliance perspective, you also got a full audit trail around, who's accessed various different vaults, or everything is timestamped. So kind of auditors love to see that. From a GDPR perspective, data is all secure, it's encrypted, and that's going to prevent ultimately what we talk to a lot of people about is they want to prevent any reputational damage that may occur from a breach. So usually what will happen is the board will have had a meeting to say, look, the landscape is, as we've described, very, very hot for kind of nefarious actors and social engineering attacks. We want to put something in place to prevent that. And what we would talk about is obviously the reputational damage that could occur as a result of a breach. And the benefits that having something in place will obviously prevent that headache for the organization.
That's a really interesting point around, it's not just about the password, but it's about issues around compliance and audit trail and crucially reputation.
Exactly.
Rossa,
Exactly.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I wasn't going to say anything.
It's always these little wobbles on virtual that we have to contend with.
It's okay.
And finally, Rossa, I wanted to finish up with some questions around the virtual roundtable that we'll be running with LastPass on the 16th of March. Are there, I know that you guys work across any number of sectors, but it would be interesting to hear a little bit about, what are some of the particular areas of challenge for financial services as an industry, financial services providers that you would point to when it comes to these issues around security?
Yeah, well, I think we touched on it a little bit. Everybody now is the perimeter has shifted, so everybody is in the kind of same situation, and I think if you're not certainly thinking about your security posture, um, during and post kind of COVID, it's something that you should be thinking about because really, employees expect it. They expect to have something in terms of I suppose how we would view it is it's almost like the organization is giving something back. It's kind of philanthropic nature of the organization to provide something that's going to protect your employees' identity, not only when they're in work, when they're outside of work. So if you kind of look at the landscape and understand that all of your competitors are probably doing it or have something in place. Finance is a high risk sector that we've seen from kind of reports that we've done and a lot of consultants that we would speak with. It's obviously you look at the recent attacks that you've seen in the news and it's very very prominent. So I would just say look, it's something that we would look forward to talking to you about. Like, what are your thoughts around your security posture? What happens if there is a breach? What's the implications for the organization? Not only the reputational damage, but if you're in charge of that part of the business, what does that mean to you and kind of your role?
Thank you again for taking the time to join us today, Rossa. It's been a fantastic conversation, and I really look forward to hearing more from you and your fellow speakers on the 16th of March at the Roundtable.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks a million. It was a great chat. We're really looking forward to it. As I said, the security landscape is ripe for having these discussions. I think certainly when people are working from their garden shed or from their attic or from the kid's bedroom, that security risk is always going to be there. And I think until certainly COVID has we've somehow found some way to vaccinate everybody, this situation isn't going away. So yeah, really looking forward to talking to the team and looking forward to the roundtable. Absolutely.
Brilliant. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us for this edition of FTT Chats, and we'll see you again soon.